We have seen the thumbnail and we have seen the topic at hand. Who would win between the end of all, the cosmic terrorist, and the one containment all father? Now, we will go over an actual in-depth power scaling for these beings within their verse and placing them on the tiering system to see who slams who via cosmology, but at the same time, we would take an equal stats route to see what would happen in a brawl of equal strength. Who would come on top? Let's start off with Oblivion. In Oblivion's first appearance, he is referenced to as space past known space, or space beyond space, the progenitor of all of death and all that isn't. Now, at first glance, this places him above eternity and mysterious death already. At this time, eternity is already classified as all that is, and even death ruled above him, as even the likes of Dormammu could threaten all that is, which he still can till this day, and even way worse than before. Oblivion is death, but death is not Oblivion. Reaching Oblivion is as good as reaching the end of all things in total conceptuality. Oblivion is referenced to be the void consistently throughout the comics, but this void thing is where a lot of issues come up while scaling Oblivion. But truth be told is that Oblivion has never gotten stronger or weaker since Marvel started as a company, which I will explain why later in this video. Oblivion says that, and I quote verbatim, "Before the multiverse was, I was at the end of all things. I wait, I am the void, the breath between life and death, between death and rebirth. My true form is beyond form, beyond shape and substance. This realm and everyone in it are my creation." Oblivion is the transcendental conceptual idea of all things living and ending, but the thought of what exists beyond total life and death, of not just creation but things beyond creation that still work under the concept of potentially existing without higher being, of total misunderstood transcendence. What I mean basically is things beyond even creation that still function within a guided rule that has no form of non-existence. Oblivion transcends that. Something mysterious to even Oblivion, or his existence needs it to prevail. He transcends it. Oblivion would engulf all of such. What I said now would also be understood better as we move, though Oblivion goes on to say he is alone and his creations believe they are real, while he has full consciousness of what he is. Oblivion envies their emotions and desires, while he has none of these mortal emotions within his infinite being of nothing. But Oblivion does feel something, which is himself. He is him and nothing is him. He saw the need to feel love, so he created a female to do such. He is the void between heaven and hell. Oblivion says that death has his joy, as do love, eternity, and countless other cosmic deities who play parts in the cosmic divine drama have something, but he has nothing. Now, Oblivion says that his daughter turned her back on him, taking physical form into the time stream, which is the multiverse, and if he tries it, then the multiverse would be destroyed. Oblivion is very skeptical about love since he doesn't understand the concept of love and is willing to learn what it is. For the classic times, Oblivion is basically a character that exists beyond all. Now, certain things will be addressed before we move. Now, him being the end of all has never changed till this day. Oblivion is always going to be the winner of all things, be it within creation or outside it, that lives and has emotions of everything but love and hate. Oblivion can't feel anything, but his avatars can, which is shown consistently, but his true form doesn't need to feel love or hate, but it can't understand the concept of such, which is funny because the concepts of love and hate in Marvel are around the same tier as Oblivion, if not greater. If you watched my One Above All video, which I've recently dropped, I explained the concept of how Toa varies using the living tribunal to encompass the abstracts, while the avatar of Toa rules over the avatars of the living tribunal, which rules over the avatar of abstracts, and this depends on the level. which these necessary transcendence of these characters choose to lower themselves to or use embodies. What do I mean? An avatar of the living tribunal from the outside was shit on above all others who couldn't view another reality on the outside. But Toa, who uses love and skills to the outside, will shit on that version of the living tribunal. But TLT, or the living tribunal of the mystery, will shit on the one above all who uses love. Now you get what I'm saying. Now Oblivion statements of the void will still wait a bit, but the statement of not being part of cosmic drama and being above heaven or being between heaven and hell, well, it's still part of the concept of Toa of love being Kwabala, and then Toa of hate, which is the one below all, being Kleboth. I explained that in my one above all video. Go watch it. I'll link it down below. Now, him not being a part of cosmic drama is true because he is beyond such concepts, to be honest. They can't attack what does not exist. And if they try to go beyond necessary rules in creation via the Yggdrasil and story archetypes, then they will fall to the necessity of dying before even talking about reaching oblivion. And this includes Runking Thor, the ones above in shadows, all the cosmic abstracts and celestials, yes, including the Never Queen and the Shaper of Worlds, but we will get there. In the Quasar run, we get a good glance at how things work with the abstracts till this day. I mean, the cosmology hasn't changed since the first firmament. What do I mean? Well, infinity and oblivion transcend eternity, but they do not. I have explained this so many times, and I did in my Toa video. Eternity is the time stream and death is, well, death. Oblivion transcends life and death, while infinity makes the time stream infinite. Infinity is space while eternity is time, and that's why even the third cosmos resembles infinity and has the horns and cape of eternity. Each cosmos has existed as infinity and eternity. Even the term infinity and eternity are synonymous terms. Eternity is infinite time and infinity is space-time or timeless space. Now, where am I heading with this? Eternity is called multi-eternity as the seventh cosmos because infinity and him decided to act separately but as one. But infinity has always been there, and when eternity dies, infinity is always there to help bring back eternity. That's what happens every time alongside many other things. Infinity gave Quasar less than far a fraction of her power, and he says infinity is transfinite, which isn't new. Eternity has been called transfinite a lot of times, and with this power, he said he was going to suck the void. Again, I will address the void of a theme because people get it fucked up. Now, a black hole created from Oblivion by Maelstrom, who works for Oblivion as his avatar, was eating the universe from the outside, which is eternity. Now, the power given to Quasar was powerful enough to save eternity by reversing the effect and to withstand the black hole while it tried sucking him into Oblivion. But the dude withstood the force. Now, the void he was falling into wasn't Oblivion for a clear reason I will give and just gave. Firstly, is the black hole was made from a piece of Oblivion's void, which was infinitely smaller than eternity but more powerful. And to show how powerful infinity is, his infinite power is 9 infinite compared to this void. And note, at this point beyond eternity you have reached the absolute infinite. So now you count beyond Aleph numbers. Shit is insane. And you have reached up, and other cosmic beings refuse to go near it. What is most impressive is that an aspect of infinity fought an aspect of oblivion on the highest plane of conceivable reality, while they armed their avatars capable of destroying eternity and recreating him. And eternity is already conceptually transcendent and transfinite, and yet that isn't the true forms of infinity and oblivion fighting, as Oblivion has made it clear so many times that this form of his isn't his true form, and infinity scales to Oblivion, but even above him, because Oblivion is a concept like infinity. The end of something can be finite, but infinity makes Oblivion infinite, and she won the fight through their avatars winning. Her avatar winning. In case anyone was wondering how strong infinity is, then you have it there. Even in more recent comics, Mikaboshi, who is relative to eternity, is nothing but one aspect of Oblivion's infinity. Now, Oblivion actually scales above almost to the far shore. But before that, everything his creation is his creation, in the sense that he existed before the first firmament. So when creation came, well, it manifested itself in something that even Oblivion isn't above, which is the wide void of the outside. If not the first cosmos would have straight up died. Infinity existed already, but it was a foreign concept amongst them when it came, but yet time couldn't get close to Oblivion. He's conceptually totally beyond it. Oblivion is weak against love and, well, relatively hate. Love is used by Toa and Toba, who encompass the outside void filled with transcendent concepts, which I explained in my previous video. So check it out. Now, null is nothingness within the outside, and the outside is called nothingness as well. In fact, in Ultimate, it is implied that the outside is Oblivion when everything ends. But people aren't looking well at context. The same way Oblivion is called nothingness, the void, and the abyss here is the same way null is called the void and the abyss, but he is in the darkness. The darkness is Oblivion. Same way Oblivion is called the void and only him will win doesn't mean he is the outside, because the outside is even portrayed to be above Oblivion via drawing the outside consistently outwards the darkness. Also, it is a conceptual war. How the hell does a void of love and hate, which Oblivion can't grasp, be Oblivion? And how is Thanos able to stay in Oblivion but runs away from the outside? The true outside, actually. Same with Galactus, and to make it worse, the Shaper could see beyond Oblivion into the far shore. Oblivion still isn't part of cosmic drama, but yet people tell me the 8th cosmos encompass the far shore. I have strong arguments to refute them, but this argument is part of it. Oblivion would be so high into boundless, you need to start counting infinite boundless layers just to reach him, because he transfinitely transcends eternity, shown many times in this video, and eternity is beyond math and languages in its transfinite self, making it boundless. And Oblivion also conceptually transcends concepts, archetypes, name it. So let's not even go there. The dude is OP as fuck. Now as for the Dark Knight. Now I have been wanting to do a video on the Dark Knight, but his scaling is simple and straightforward. I have videos power scaling Perpetua and her kids, and the thing about them is that they are very powerful, especially the World Forger. I mean, they all scale to the 6th dimension before the Crisis event and the Perpetua shenanigans of the Cosmic Raptor and the Hand imprisoning her within the Source Wall. And after Luthor helped break it with the Justice League, things started going haywire, like imagination running wild, Perpetua looking for the 7 universal forces of creation. Then she loses to her children and the Justice League, while you have Barbatos, who eats failed multiverses and ruled basically over antimatter, which is the dark multiverse. The Batman who laughs then joins Barbatos in these, but note that the dark multiverse is so large that the light multiverse can swim in it. Barbatos was literally more powerful than the Crisis Brothers. I mean, he killed the strongest, who created him, known as the World Forger. Now the Batman who laughs started using the dark matter to attract the light multiverse, sending creatures to each reality, but there's a mix up here. Both Crisis events, the universes being created on by World Forger, were all literally multiverses within the Bleed, and each multiverse has its own source wall, which isn't a new thing as of now. Note that the World Forger recreated the Justice League, a pseudo-hope concept of Superman, which only prevailed because World Forger wasn't trying to fight back. Barbatos killed a weakened World Forger, if I remember clearly, because World Forger was within the Forge, which is around the Rock of Eternity. The brothers return to the 6 dimensions when revived. While they are in the multiverse, they are weakened, so Barbatos had to feed All the remnants of World Forgers wasted universes for eons to catch up to a diminished World Forger who could create the time stream and build something that could carry them to the end of creation, aka the Promethean galaxy. So Barbatos was far from being strong as full-powered World Forger who recreated the multiverse in the 6th dimension. Now I have a cosmology amp for DC, and this is where it comes. The 6th dimension actually is so large that people don't realize the entire multiverse was recreated there again while the original one existed. And people forget where Perpetua created the multiverse. And fun fact, the 6th dimension is clearly above the dark multiverse and the other kind, the other place. These alone scales above Upside Down Man at full power. But yeah, World Forger did this, and you have this bloody bastard so smart that he started making versions of himself across the multiverse. Bad versions of Batman who were the strongest, even took over Apocalypse, destroyed almost all of the parliaments of trees and the parliaments as a whole, which would include the parliaments of narratives, with scales to the entire multiverse. You have the Green, but he couldn't reach the true Green, and he was just above everyone. Think of how much feat everyone there in these fights during the Dark Knight's War has pulled, be it low or high end. Dude alone based out of lore could literally transcended all of them. These characters needed several amps, from totality to crisis energy to matter and antimatter to magic and whatnot. This already places him at high Altiversal, but impressive thing is the fact he beat and amped Perpetua. Could go to the beginning of time where Perpetua, who gets power from the Overvoid. The Perpetua that first created the multiverse is clearly the most powerful. She's like her race, the Hands, who are like further chroniclers. Yet DC had to use a retcon attack far beyond multiversal lore, something beyond hope and fears. The Batman who laughs transcends hope, fears, and story archetypes of creation, as explained by Metron, how the multiverse works on beliefs and stories, as Chronicler literally has the book, reading them as stories and wanted to save them, but was relative to the Hands pre-gaining amp to rewrite creation from the Overvoid. He could kill them. He is high Auto Plus. Perpetua with Crisis Amp is stated to be 100 times stronger than before, and their goal was to mainly destroy the main 52 multiverses. Though they had already threatened everything in creation, TDK would be likely thousands of times stronger than the DC multiverse, including the 6th dimension and the other kind. Dude would be still high Altiversal, but high Auto Plus, and is pretty damn impressive. Next up is the Scarlet King. The Scarlet King was one of the many gods born with the planting of the Tree of Knowledge, called Karak at that time. He was the smallest of his siblings, but the only one aware, and it brought him great pain. He decided that existence itself is painful, and that he'd have no part in it, as well as destroying existence itself. He started by consuming his siblings and growing stronger on their essence. He vowed to destroy the tree, the creator, and creation, and consumed or subjugated all the other gods, naming himself king of the darkness below. He declared war on creation itself, one which will not end until He declared war on creation itself, one which will not end until the very end of everything. He took Sana, one of the gods he subjugated, forcibly as his wife, and sired 7 daughters on her. Sana died after birthing them, and the king took his 7 daughters as his new bride, sealing them so they would not die as their mother had. Now, according to Tufto's SCP-001 proposal, right, the king is more akin to a living idea than an individual entity. In effect, he is the idea of nihilism and a force of chaos, and can assimilate an entity thought to be him into an aspect of himself, just as it did with SCP-2317-K. He is always depicted as figure with a crown-like ornament over his head, showing royalty and associated with red SCP-6996, or in the cases of alien cultures lacking the perception of red, the king would be associated with a color that would show dominance over everyone. In SCP-4989, Dr. Simon Kells described looking at the king as being like staring at a pattern screamer, only more hollow. The pattern screamers are a race of ancient creatures existing within the SCP mythology. They existed before the dawn of time, until they were nearly eradicated by an abstract force called the pattern. Currently, the pattern screamers do not exist. The problem is that they are aware of their own state of non-existence and have grown to loathe the universe for existing, particularly humans. If they are perceived by enough people at one time, they will begin to exist again and pose a threat to humanity and the universe. That's insane. And this dude is considered more hollow than them, likely more dangerous and more powerful. Scarlet King's true power is unknown, though he can conquer and destroy entire worlds and civilizations, and threaten other lower elder gods. For regular humans, his true power is presumably beyond comprehension. The Scarlet King is stated to be powerful enough to threaten all of creation and the Tree of Knowledge itself, making him a boundless threat, if not worse. He also feeds on the negative feelings of people, as he did with Dr. Clef, which resulted in the latter's madness, and is responsible for giving most reality benders their power. Although he and his followers were able to defeat both McCain and Nahash. In another account, he was described as being weaker than his uncle Yalda Bayoth, which can be easily debunked because McCain did beat Yalda Bayoth, and the brother's death, well, should be relative or more powerful than him. He also was no match for SCP-2747, which used his power for its own plans. Now, I do have an SCP Cosmology video, but in short, the SCP has cosmology. The SCP Cosmology has a local multiverse as well, which lower elder gods rule over, and such contains infinite multiverses, metaverses with infinite dimensions, making it at least high hyperversal. Then you have Saint Alagada, Wonders Library, several levels of the cosmology, but in all, the cosmology is transfinite and transcendental upon narrative archetypes of concepts. Each story transcends each other within the Wonders Library, which basically houses all of stories of the tree, and the tree was created by Brother's death. But the Scarlet King would be around that their tier or close, since he could damage the tree and wage war against the elder gods and high elder gods such as McCain, Yalda Bayoth, and many more, though he scales to the tree and even beyond it, making him boundless. He also represents the concept of nothingness by destroying creation, as he is an arch enemy of the library, because he is trying to destroy not just the tree but everything of creation, making him the end of all things. He is the idea or concept of nihilism and chaos without order. He also ruled over Christianity and can be argued to be above SCP-343, which is the Almighty, which is God, as he vowed to destroy the Creator. So Boundless is still down there for him as Lobo, while he can go couple levels into such. Now, who wins? These beings have some serious conceptual evolution and necessities, but clearly the Darkest Knight gets one shot by both Scarlet King and Oblivion. To make it worse, he couldn't outrun the Flashes with a dying speed force, and the best speed feats they were pulling were immeasurable speeds by fighting through time with raw speed. While you have boundless beings here, Oblivion is described omnipresent as well, as so Oblivion takes speed and power above them. And if you say the Darkest Knight is boundless, which is wank and his best, he still loses to Oblivion zero difficulty without Oblivion using its true form. And Scarlet King can go higher and higher into boundless, so clearly Oblivion slaps the both of them. But what would happen if they were all equal in speed and strength? Well, the Darkest Knight represented fear and lack of hope. Oblivion is the end and total non-existence. Scarlet King is meaningless existence and total chaos. Destruction without remedy. All transcend narratives, which is plot manipulation, but Oblivion breaks the fourth wall, taking it to a whole different level. Oblivion can't feel fear, meaningfulness, and meaninglessness. He transcends chaos and order already, transcends eternity, concepts of what can be, what could be, what should be, and what might be. He transcends conceptual duality. So not even the conceptual rules of the Darkest Knight and Scarlet King can affect Oblivion. But Oblivion can very well get rid of them in an equal fight of strength by simply passively negating their purpose, as they are nothing to him, as he can't interact with such existence. But they can fall into nothingness. As for equal stats, the Dark Knight would lose to the Scarlet King in terms of conventional durability and durability negation. The Darkest Knight transcends those concepts, but he isn't them. He is able to use matter manipulation via Dr. Manhattan's power to create and conceptual erasure, while Scarlet King transcends the ability to be erased via means of basic conceptual erasure like the Dark Knight, unlike Oblivion, who is the end of concepts themselves. Though the Dark Knight seems smarter, but I don't think his intellect would help, as it didn't with Wonder Woman. Fighting through time is something too slow to do with Scarlet King. In all, I do think Oblivion comes on top, then Scarlet King, and then the Dark Knight. If you have an issue with this, well, my Discord is there. Check the about section. We can discuss about it, or I could slam you in a debate. But yeah, if you found this video informative, please do to like, share, comment, subscribe, and Happy New Year, guys.